So maybe we can get started. Welcome to the seminar about wastewater treatment standards and legal frames in the EU. It's both for the Ukrainian and also for the people in the Baltic Sea region. And we have Victoria Ladi from EUSBSR PSP to say a couple of welcoming words especially for the Ukrainian participants. Please, Victoria.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Elsie. And if you allow, I will switch to Ukrainian now. Доброго ранку, шановні учасники та учасниці. Вітаємо вас на цьому семінарі, організованому за підтримки стратегії Європейського Союзу у Балтійському регіоні і, зокрема, тематичного напрямку Нутрі. Мене звуть Вікторія Гладій, і я працюю спеціалісткою з адміністративних питань у Офісі підтримки стратегії Baltic Sea Strategy Point. Стратегія Європейського Союзу у Балтійському регіоні – це перша така була макрорегіональна платформа і план дій співпраці 8 країн Балтійського регіону, ініційована у 2009 році. На даний час таких стратегій є уже 4, і Україна, зокрема, є, наприклад, частиною стратегії ЄС по Дунайському регіону. Члени Балтійської стратегії згідно спільно затвердженого плану дій взаємодіють у таких сферах, наприклад, як судноплавство, транспорт, туризм, культура, енергетика, але також охорона навколишнього середовища і, наприклад, збереження водних екосистем та живих водних ресурсів. І головною метою стратегії, звичайно, є посилення співпраці для отримання взаємної користі, але також і згуртування і оптимальне використання наявних фінансових ресурсів у макрорегіоні для вирішення спільних проблем. Тому от сьогодні ви матимете змогу почути експертів та експерток та дізнатися більше про успішні практики і поточні проекти у галузі водовідведення та очистки води з регіону Балтійського моря. Це лише одна із кількох таких поточних ініціатив за сприяння шведського головування у стратегії, спрямована на допомогу саме Україні. Також координатори тематичного напрямку Нутрі Балтійської стратегії сподіваються, що сьогоднішній семінар допоможе поділитися досвідом, але також і налагодити партнерство і зв'язки, щоб мати
There is no sound.
You got muted.
I've been muted.
Yeah.
Отже, повторюсь, координатори тематичного напрямку Нутрі Балтійської стратегії сподіваються, що сьогоднішній семінар допоможе налагодити важливі партнерства і зв'язки, щоб мати змогу надати практичну і експертну допомогу Україні у ці дуже важливі часи. І тому бажаю всім сьогодні гарного продуктивного семінару і слава Україні! Over to you, Elsie.
Thanks a lot, Victoria. And I also welcome for everybody else in the Baltic Sea region, and I hope you will have a really enjoyable conversations and lots of interesting topics to listen today. I will start with a short background information about our seminar. So EUSBSR is a EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, and we have 3 main objectives: save the sea, connect the region, increase prosperity. And my policy area Nutri is strongly focused on save the sea, but also, close to the increased prosperity at least in this stream. We have coordinators in Poland. Przemysław and Andrzej are here today also, and I'm the coordinator in Finland. We have been, all 3 of us have been coordinating Nutri since about 1 year, so there's a lot of new stuff also for us. And if you have any questions after this event, yeah, please free to contact us, and we can see how we can cooperate and so on. Our main objective is, of course, to improve cooperation about any themes that are relevant for Nutri. And we have 4 main actions in our action plan: the reduction of nutrient emissions from agriculture and diffuse sources, and from urban areas and point sources. But then we have also nutrient recycling and internal loading of the Baltic Sea. This event is first kind of iteration or try to have sessions called PA Nutri Talks. We hope to have similar sessions at least twice a year in the future also, but focusing on our different actions. So now we are starting with the urban areas and point sources, and at the autumn we will probably have something related to agriculture and diffuse sources. So we will see how it goes. And that's why, because this is the first try in having this kind of session, we are really happy to hear any kind of feedback or ideas that what you would like to see in the future. And why we are interested in cooperating with Ukraine. City of Lviv is one of the HELCOM hotspots. It's in the Baltic Sea catchment area. It has quite high it has the wastewater treatment plant, but it's outdated and it has really high load. But in addition, there is small hromadas in the catchment area with almost 1.5 million inhabitants. And these areas either lack completely or have really also outdated wastewater treatment. So there is a need for better treatment in this region. And for some background, we started cooperating with Ukraine already in December 22. We had EUSBSR organized a conference called Fostering Sustainable Cooperation between the Baltic region and Ukraine. And Nutri participated to organizing a workshop about Ukrainian ecosystem and economy, where we discussed, for example, wastewater issues. And after the workshop, we helped forming a project proposal to the Swedish Institute Baltic Sea Neighborhood Program. It's a seed money project involving Ukraine, Poland, and Sweden, and it's about wastewater treatment. We don't know if it received funding or not yet, but let's hope at least. I asked the participants to send some questions to the speakers beforehand, and the speakers received them a bit late, maybe at Friday, but at least they know about them. So let's hope they will reflect on this. But I will go shortly through the funding opportunities that is related to wastewater treatment, especially in Ukraine. So what kind of funding Ukraine can receive, especially from the EU side? There are projects that Ukraine can participate. There are different programs, transnational programs, but unfortunately for the Interreg Baltic Sea region, they can only be associated partners. So it means that can participate without funding. But Ukraine can be partner in many cross-border cooperation programs, for example, Poland-Ukraine program, and also in Horizon research funds. And in addition to those, there are, of course, national ministries, foreign ministries especially, often have some kind of development funds. Finland has a Fin partnership program that businesses can do business together with Ukrainian partners. There are links to all of these, and in addition, I would like to mention that it's possible to give direct donations to Ukraine. For example, the Helsinki wastewater treatment plant donated their old equipment to Ukraine just this year, I think. And in addition to those, there are financial institutions like NEFCO, for example, that have already done a lot of work in Ukraine. NEFCO has funded given funding to Leave biogas plant and also to the wastewater treatment plant there, I think. But these are quotes directly from them, and they say that the need for new investments to water canals is enormous, and currently the cities in Ukraine have limited room for additional debt. So it makes it a bit more complicated to get loan-based funding at least. And NEFCO and all other international financial institutions are already working to raise more funds for Ukraine. And the assumption for them is that the funds will come, but it will take some time. And it depends a lot on the governments, how quickly they will approve the new funds and so on. So it's not that easy situation, but there are opportunities, and please go through all these links and you will hopefully find new opportunities. And then there is also Global Europe Neighborhood Development International Cooperation Instrument that has dedicated or earmarked some funds for Ukraine, and also environmental and climate resilience is one of the priorities that can get funding from there. And then there is a European Investment Fund that is starting or has approved some kind of initiatives towards Ukraine, but there is not that much information available for that yet. So hopefully there will be in the future. And some words about the seminar now. It's being recorded, as I wrote in the emails and invitation. And we will hopefully translate the recording to Ukrainian. So there will be a video recording with Ukrainian subtitles. And we are, of course, open for any new suggestions for cooperation. And also from the participants from the Baltic Sea region, what kind of events or anything would be useful for projects, or to start projects or discuss projects, or whatever would help cooperation. And there is a direct link to the forums where you can send either feedback or questions to the participants. So I hope that we can arrange some either answer the questions through email or organize a second event or whatever. So it would be really nice to have feedback and what you would like to see in the future, and we will see if we can work on that. But we already know that we hope that we can organize a workshop at the EUSBSR annual forum in Riga in October. We have applied for such. It will be a workshop about cooperating with Ukraine and what we have done already and what we can build upon that in the future. So hope to see you there if you happen to join us in Latvia. And now we will go towards the agenda for today. Mr. Roman Tutsky will be saying a few welcoming words for the participants. And then we have presentations from Poland and Sweden coming up before we have a break at 11:15. So thank you and enjoy the day. And now the floor is to Mr. Tutski.
Добрий день, дякую. У нас трошки проблеми зі зв'язком були, але все вдалося. В першу чергу хочу подякувати організаторам за організацію цього семінару. Для нас це дуже важливо, адже ми зможемо почерпнути найкращі практики та знання та технології управління водокористування та водовідведення, що допоможе в свою чергу нам розробити якісні та комплексні заходи, які війдуть в програму заходів до плану управління річковим басейном. Нагадаюся, що якраз зараз відбувається збір цих заходів. У 2024 році Кабінет міністрів затвердить план управління, і з 2024 року ми вже будемо, це як іншими словами сказати, це як по стратегії, але це вже міжнародно визнана стратегія розвитку та управління водними ресурсами в басейні річки Вісла. Отже, я зараз запущу свою презентацію коротко про басейн річки. Скажіть, будь ласка, чи видно мій робочий стіл?
Видно.
Дякую. Отже, управління водними ресурсами басейну річки Вісла на території України. Коротко, ми всі знаємо, що басейн Вісли є унікальним для України, адже його води Низьке море, це є кордон практично майже по всій протяжності, це є кордон між трьох країн – України, Польщі та Білорусії. В межах української частини річка Західний Буг протікає по двох областей – це Львівська і Волинська. В басейні налічується 53 громади, проживає близько 1,5 мільйони осіб, і лише 25 громад мають. Окрім того, що деякі громади взагалі не мають очисних споруд. За обліком водокористування забір води в 2022 році в басейні становить 79,9 мільйонів метрів кубічних. Найбільше ми забираємо з підземних джерел, яке становить 66,2 мільйони метрів кубічних, і з поверхневих. Найбільша кількість води використовується комунальними підприємствами, це майже половина, це 40%, сільськогосподарське водопостачання 35% і промисловості 23%. Скид води в 2022 році залишився практично на тому самому рівні середньому і становить 121 мільйонів метрів кубічних, з яких 90% в нас класифікуються як забруднення, а це майже 109 мільйонів метрів кубічних. В басейнове управління проводить моніторинг в басейні річки Вісла, а це річка в нас Сян і Західний Буг. У нас знаходиться 23 пункти спостереження, 8 з яких транскордонні пункти, 14 пунктів для визначення рівня антропогенного навантаження і 1 пункт для питного водопостачання. Пріоритетних і специфічних показників якості води. На слайді ми вибрали ті річки, яких понаднормовий скид хімічних речовин. Відповідно до даних моніторингу, якість води за багаторічний період визначено, що найнижчою якістю води характеризується, як і завжди, в нас постійно річка Полтва. Це пов'язано з скидами з очисних споруд, забруднених вод Львівводоканалу. Далі у річці Гирила, в річці Західний Буг, нижче Гирила річки Полтви, це місто Буськ, Будівництво, Кам'янка Бузька, Старий Добротрійця, підвищення концентрації органічних та біогенних речовин. Нижчою річка, якість води в річці Західний Буг має тенденцію до покращення, однак погіршується під впливом Червоноград, міста Сокаль, місто Новоград-Волинськ, Володимир-Волинськ та приватних домогосподарств. Практично у всіх пунктах спостереження характеризується як помірно або слабо забруднена. Якщо ж найбільше водокористувач – це є комунальні підприємства, і найбільший забрудник – це є комунальні підприємства. Якщо взяти зі всіх комунальних підприємств, то найбільше забруднення, 86% – це є забруднення від скидів водоканалу, які зі стічними водами водоканалу в басейні річки Західний Буг надходить найбільша кількість забруднюючих речовин, а це майже 90% органічниками БСК і ХСК, 83,97 біогенних речовин, більше 90% спарів, 100% важких металів та інше. Протягом останніх років класифікуються скиди стічних вод з водоканалу як недостатньо очищені, оскільки не відповідають встановленим нормам. Крім того, в басейні є ще інші загрози, такі як сміттєзвалище. Ми всі знаємо про Грибовицьке сміттєзвалище. Станом на сьогодні воно успішно консервується, проте залишається очищується. На початку російської агресії була проблема з закупівлею різних реагентів для установки по очищенню інфільтратів, але зараз ніби вона вирівняна і десь вдається очищувати. Крім того, ще є інші, крім забруднення комунальних підприємств, ще є інші виклики. Так само є загроза попадання в нафтосховище. У нас були такі випадки, проте зараз в нас є закуплені спеціальні солвенти, бони, ми десь готуємося до тих викликів. Що ж до перспективи реконструкції очисних споруд. В басейні річки Західний Буг в межах Львівської області потрібно будівництво 7 об'єктів очисних споруд, реконструкції 11 об'єктів очисних споруд. Перспективи в 23-24 роки. Станом на сьогодні в нас є в басейні 9 органів місцевого самоврядування, комунальних підприємств, які мають актуальну ПКД. Звичайно, це будівництво очисних споруд, реконструкція надзвичайно дороговартісна процедура. І десь ми бачимо такі джерела фінансування. Це державний фонд, проте станом на сьогодні всі ресурси кинуті на перемогу. Залишається обласний фонд охорони навколишнього природного середовища. Він в цьому році об'ємом 78 мільйонів. Чому такі великі? Тому що не використовувався в минулому році, і були закриті використання фонду. І на другий рік він не буде таким же великим, він зменшиться практично в половину, так, щоб ми орієнтувалися. Звичайно, це місцеві бюджети. І найбільше, які ми можемо використати, це міжнародні гранти, фонди та кредити. Було десь приблизно визначено органи місцевого самоврядування, які будуть приймати участь в міжнародній програмі Interact Next, Україна-Польща 21-27, які мають партнерів, які мають актуальні ПКД, які будуть подаватися, і десь є діалог з обласною державною адміністрацією, вони практично гарантують співфінансування, бо умова в цій програмі є, де мінімум 10% співфінансування з своїх джерел. Так само є така програма, як додаткове долучення, це програма LIFE, перехід до чистої енергії, подача заявок вже відкрита, буде тривати до листопада. І так само це досить великий ресурс, який можна залучити на реконструкцію очисних споруд, водопостачання та водовідведення. Крім того, на правах реклами хотів би нагадати про басейнове управління, що як ми розробляємо план управління, там мають туди війти не тільки заходи з очисних реконструкції очисних споруд, а також і інші заходи, які покращують якість води в басейні. А це так само ми зараз працюємо над такою новою тематикою, як відновлення і збереження водноболотних угідь. Ми збираємо інформацію, десь залучаємо так само міжнародних спеціалістів, міжнародних джерел. Було подано заявки по VGP, Міжнародному фонду. Так само ми працюємо з створенням бази даних джерел питного водопостачання, проведення їх аналізів. Так само ми працюємо по таким напрямкам, як протипаводковий захист населення, будуємо дамби. І саме ми ревіталізація річок, і теж такі самі заходи по ревіталізації річок можуть бути як відновлення природного стану річки та інше. З мене коротко все. У мене було виділено 5 хвилин. Дякую за увагу.
Романа, можна питання?
Так, слухаю вас.
Добрий день, Львів водоканал, мене Олександр звати. Скажіть, будь ласка,
Добрий день.
Побачив, що в програму Encourage Next це заявки приймаються якраз 31 травня починаються, так?
Так, так.
А можна Львов водоканалу
Так.
в цій програмі прийняти участь?
Звичайно. Звичайно, що можна приймати. Навіть не то, що можна, це і треба приймати, бо там є різні напрямки фінансування від великих інфраструктурних об'єктів до малих. Це навіть і потрібно. Потрібно, я майже впевнений, що у вас є партнер в Польщі, це ж головна умова, з ним поспілкуватися і подати спільну заявку.
Ага, це спільна заява з поляками йде. Ага, зрозумів. Все.
Так, я думаю, що ми з вами, пане Олександре,
Ага, так, вибачте.
дивіться, ми з вами, напевно, сконтактуємося, і все, що наші знання по інтереку, які ми маємо, хоча вони не є досконалі, ми зможемо вам всім підказати. Я навіть, до речі, прошу своїх колег, які навіть тут є присутні, хто подавав, хто має досвід, і прошу від них там зразок старих заявок, щоб ми десь змогли ділитися ними зі всіма, хто хоче подаватися. Тобто, щоб ми спільною групою десь старалися рухати це питання по залученню міжнародних коштів до фінансування очисних споруд. Пане Олександре, ми з вами обміняємося номерами телефонів. Львів-водоканал – це ж, дивлячись з презентації, надзвичайно важливий об'єкт для нас. І ми поділимося тими знаннями, що в нас є, і якщо при потребі зможемо допомогти в заповненні заявці. Там, можливо, хтось не має перекладу, ми перекладемо все, що нам потрібно, ми допоможемо. Наскільки знаю, на сайті Інтереку є така вкладка «Пошук партнерів». Ми, до речі, там так само зареєстровані. І я просто не знаю, чи Львів-водоканал пробував, шукав якісь можливості для подачі.
Ну так, у нас є група, її очолює Андрусевич Валерій Олександрович. От, там деякі проблеми є. Думаю, то ми з вами зв'яжемося, з'ясуємо і плідно будемо працювати.
Звичайно. Так, дякую. Дякую за запитання.
Так, вам дякую.
Thank you for Mr. Dutski. Unfortunately, it seems that due to connection problems and so on, we didn't have the translation to English this time, but hopefully we will, when we have the recording, we can translate to Mr. Dutski's speech to English also, so you can see what he showed you. But there was information more about the situation in the Lviv area and also about the finances a bit. So now we go forward with the agenda. Next is Przemysław Krusecki, my dear co-coordinator from PA Nutri and from the Basin Department, the Water Authority in Poland.
Good morning,
Go
everyone.
ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Could you confirm that you can hear me?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Lovely.
And we can see you also, but not the presentation.
So I will switch the presentation on. Just a moment. Here we go. Okay, is it visible?
Yeah. Yep, perfect. Thanks.
So, this is the background for our discussions today, and for coming 10 minutes, I will say some words about the directive and the requirements of the legal act, and some mistakes or local conditions that we had that led us to a situation that we have now. We are not in line with the directive. I mean Poland is not in line with the directive. The Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive is the main legal instrument on standards and requirements for collecting sewage from local households and for treating it. When we joined the EU in 2004 year, we have not guaranteed ourselves a transition period. And it means that for Poland, the requirements specified in the directive should have been implemented by the end of 2015. So we only had 11 years for the full implementation and for meeting the standards of the directive. So it is something that caused problems for us too. The directive and its provisions were implemented into Polish law mainly by Act on Water, so-called water law, where all those regulations were written down, including definition of agglomeration, including requirements for particular parts of our administration. So this is the act where the competence is shared or divided between different actors, between local governments, between governmental administration, etc. And the most important provisions of the water law are the definition of agglomeration, and this is the area where population equivalent is at least 2,000 people. It will be is going to be explained later in more details by Joanna Ancharska in the second presentation that will be given after the break. And the second provision that is important, the most important there, is that it is local government community that is responsible for implementation of the directive, and this is the municipal administration that is responsible for the effect, for meeting the requirements of the directive. To have it controlled somehow, or to have it under surveillance, we have created a national urban wastewater treatment program. So, and it was believed that it would be a good tool for control, for coordination, and a tool for implementation of investments that are necessary to fulfill the requirements of the directive. So it's a kind of strategic document, is approved by government, and in that document, in this program, communities define their actions, their needs for investments, and they declare the terms when the investments will have been done. And it creates the first problem that we have met during years. The idea was to have the program updated once for 4 years, once per 4 years. But you can imagine that the life does not stop for 4 years, and there is still a number of communities that want to change something in the program. And what we observe is the huge difference, or large difference, between the program and the data presented there, and the program is reported to the European Commission, and data presented by communities, by agglomerations in their annual reports. This creates a kind of mess in data, and the picture what the situation is in Poland according to the directive, in terms of the directive, is not clear for the European Commission, and sometimes it's not clear for us even. What is the second result? An unexpected or unwanted, unwelcomed effect is that the program, the National Urban Wastewater Treatment Program, has been understood or used by communities as an investment program. So what we have observed during those years is that the communities, when they plan their investments in agglomerations, in established agglomerations, they do not remember, or they do not want to remember, the purpose. And the purpose is to fulfill the requirements of the directive and fulfill the requirements written down in the accession treaty to the European Union. They understood the program as a program of investments because they have to report, they have to propose their investments, and the program, on the other hand, was a condition to obtain money from governmental or European funds. So if there is an agglomeration and they want to get money to support their investments in wastewater treatment area, they need to be included there in the National Urban Wastewater Treatment Program. Otherwise, the possibility to get money from any external resources was not possible. So the effect was that the program was treated as the financial mechanism, as the program of investments and financial mechanism, not as the program that should lead us to the result defined in the directive. Compliance with the directive is another trick, and this is something that was maybe not fully surprised, but in one moment it was a surprise, because this is the way how the European Commission understands the directive, and unfortunately it was approved by the Court of Justice. And there is a hierarchy principle. So we have 3 conditions that should be met. But the assessment, if the conditions are met or not, is done by subsequent steps. And if an agglomeration does not meet the first condition, it is understood that the agglomeration does not meet any of conditions, neither the first one nor the second or the third one. If the condition number 1 is met, but the condition number 2 is not met, then the condition number 3 is not checked. The European Commission understands that the treatment standards are not met either. So the agglomeration is assessed as meeting the conditions of the directive only when does the agglomeration fulfill requirements of those 3 conditions. In 2018, the State Water Holding Polish Waters was established, and the requirements or the tasks given formally to National Water Management Authority were moved to the new body, to Polish Waters, and it's still in our hands to coordinate the implementation of the program and implementation of the directive. But we have another tool that we haven't had before, is that we give our opinion, or we control the process of establishing the agglomeration. So if if communities want to change something in borders of agglomeration, or they would like to establish a new agglomeration or cancel the previous one, they need our approval, they need our opinion. Financing. This is something that is going to be back, I think, in for the part of our meeting. We calculate that almost 55% of investments done from 2003 till 2020, 55% of the spendings were covered by own resources of communities or own resources of water supply and sewage companies. During those 18 years, we've built more than 95,000 kilometers of sewage network. We have constructed more than 460 sewage treatment plants. And the overall cost of the investments that we have already spent, and we have already done, the investments that we have already done, is estimated at 80 billion Polish zlotys. It's quite a lot of money. And what the problem is, and what is the situation now? The more money we spend, the less result we can see. I mean, spending more and more billions zlotys has not led us to the requirements of the directive. We are still far from meeting the requirements of the directive. This is why the European Commission has opened a legal procedure against Poland. And this is a clear picture that the mechanism that we have used, that we have created and we have used, the program, the wastewater, national wastewater treatment program, the way how we coordinated it during past years was not sufficient. 80 billion zlotys spent. It's more or less 20 billion euro. Lots of investments done, but still a large number of agglomerations does not meet the requirements of the directive, and they cannot guarantee that they will meet the requirements by 2027. So this is the first list of main problems. The directive requires significant financial resources, and there is a strong need of coordination and strong need of surveillance. How the money are spent, what the money are spent for, how communities, how local governments treat the money. So what they, how they spend it, what they spend it for. Sometimes it was a kind of disguise that they wanted to construct a road, but to have money for a road, it was not possible. So they were adding an investment for wastewater collection system, and then the money was spent, but the result was not the one that we wanted to achieve, because it did not lead us to the requirements of the directive. It's a heavy burden for communities, and we can observe it in prices for water. The transition periods were not sufficient, and we see that many agglomerations were not established correctly. And once more, the result is that the allocation of funds was not proper, was not good. So this is the first part of the presentation that we have prepared for our colleagues from Ukraine, and first lessons learned from the history of implementation of the directive in Poland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really interesting stuff. Now we have reserved a place for comments. So if Ari Kangas is available, I will give the floor to you now.
Yes, good morning, Elsie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ari Kangas. I come from the Ministry of the Environment, Finland, and I'm in a response of all the wastewater issues. Do I have the possibility of share some slides? Let's see over there. Yes, I will tell you something about these experiments that we met when joining the EU in wastewater branch. That was rather simple for us because we had such a long history in wastewater treatment. We had first wastewater treatment plants in the beginning of last century, and the first activated sludge plant in Scandinavia was taken into operation in Helsinki. And that know-how we got came from Germany at that time. But then after the war started the urbanization. So cities became bigger, people came from rural areas, and those wastewater treatment plants were not enough anymore. And also the cities grew, so we needed to build construction systems. And that was the time, 60s, 70s, even 80s, when large collection systems were constructed with the help of government funding, and that was done by the municipalities. And then Water Act in the beginning of 60s gave us the legal framework how well waters should be treated. In 80s we got chemical removal, and in the 90s came EU and nitrogen removal, and 2000 we got our own Environment Protection Act, so that all the treatment plants need to have environmental permit. Some figures. So here you can see that biological chemical treatment came from the 70s, and it became the main way of treating waters. And then with the EU we got biological chemical and nitrogen removal, and results already before the EU. Here we have phosphorus results. The red lines are EU requirements. The violet is the requirement with the environmental permit. And then the green one is what the treatment plants actually do. The big ones, small ones, and so on. And this is phosphorus and then nitrogen, which is not required in all treatment plants in Finland, only some, and they have the EU treatment requirement 70%. And then, of course, this is the overall result. So because all treatment plants don't have nitrogen removal requirements, then the overall result is less than 70. And to conclude, I would say that the construction of the collection systems is very important. So you can have a fine treatment plant doing good result, but if you don't get the wastewaters to the treatment plant, then it's a bit in vain. Then when you get the wastewaters to the treatment plant, you can renovate and improve the treatment at the treatment plant. And also the treatment and the design of the treatment plant should be done according to the requirements of the receiving water. So that will determine how well the wastewaters are treated. And because we are now a bit late of the timetable, and I have said already that I had to leave quite soon, so I will also show a look to the administration of wastewater treatment in Finland. So all treatment plants are owned and operated by municipalities. They could be also privately owned and privately operated, but the people in Finland, they want that the municipalities own the treatment plants. And they can be also like limited companies where the majority of the shares belong to the municipality. Or they can be part of the municipality's organization, but they must keep separate accounting on water services. And the operation and investments are financed by water tariffs. And the water tariffs, according to the Water Services Act, may include no more than reasonable return on the capital. And that has been something like from 10 to 15%. And what is also important that according to the Environmental Protection Act, an environmental permit is required for all wastewater treatment plants over 100 population equivalent. And those treatment plants are quite small, but anyway, they have permit, they have to monitor, and they are supervised by authority. So there is a certain licensing authority that grants the permit, and then monitoring and reporting from the results goes to another supervisory authority. And that's how the administration's been done. But thank you. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ari, and really nice that you had time to participate. I know you are really busy. And now we will go forward to Swedish presentation. You can, if you have comments to the Polish presentation, or you can go directly to your own topic.
Yeah, I can.
Welcome, Erik.
I can go. Thank you. I can go into my own topic, but I think I see a lot of similarities between the Finnish conditions and the Swedish conditions. So I think that you're going to be pretty familiar when it comes to the Swedish situation. First of all, my name is Erik Karlsson, and I work for the Swedish Water Association, which is a member-owned company. All Swedish municipalities are members in our organizations. We work for them for the municipalities, and I'm going to come into that on my next slide. We have 30 employees, and we're based in Stockholm in Sweden, and we do everything within education and conferences. We do also make some technical standardizations, as in publications and such. And of course, we run different kind of networks and legal advice to our municipalities, and we do also finance some research and development. So the municipalities can apply for money from us, and we can give them money to perform R&D. We do also have a strong network within our organization that we try to work through committees and networks to reach all the municipalities. It's a quite wide range of municipalities in Sweden. Some are really small and some are really big. So it's a good way to collaborate and keep in touch with the municipalities. Just to set you up with some background information about the Swedish situation, there's approximately 10.4 million people in Sweden, and the Swedish Water and Wastewater Associations serve 9.2 million of these. So like 1.2 million people that have own water or sewage in Sweden. We have a pipe network which is approximately 200,000 kilometers, and more than 3,200 water and wastewater treatment plants. A little bit more wastewater treatment plants than water plants, but they're pretty decent. We can say it's about 1,500 water plants and 1,700 wastewater treatment plants. The total revenue of the Swedish municipalities within the water sector is 2 billion euros, and we have approximately 3 water services. Of course, we have a drinking water, a potable water that we distribute, and we have a wastewater, as we're going to speak about today. And we have also a stormwater service that we take care of some stormwater, not all of it, but some stormwater, and that's mostly in the major cities. Within Sweden, we have 290 municipalities, and there, as I said, there can be pretty wide difference between the municipalities. Some are really small in their agglomerations, but really large when it comes to the area that they work within. As for instance, if you go to the northern parts of Sweden, you have municipalities which is like almost the size of some European countries, but they only serve like 3,000 inhabitants. And we can compare that to Stockholm, which is like 1 million people within the Stockholm municipality in a much more dense area. As I said, we have big similarities to Finland. We have a municipal responsibility, just as they do in Finland, and each municipality has their own tariff. So if you're buying water as a customer, you pay according to this tariff, and the same goes with wastewater. And most of the water is measured with meter, and that we do say that if you count, you measure the water, you get how much the wastewater distribution is as well. So we use the water tax rate to what can I say? To count the cost for the wastewater. The stormwater is mostly based on the property area. If you look at the legal delimitation of the Swedish water service, as I said earlier, we serve the greater part of the society in Sweden, some 90% or so, but we do not serve smaller agglomerations, which in legal definition is like less than 20 houses. And then you can say that the houses has to be within a certain area, so they can't be too wide distance between them. So if like the houses stands almost next to each other, that's a part of an agglomeration. But if you have farming areas or forest areas between the houses, that's kind of a limit to an agglomeration. So it had to be like some kind of connected households, so to say, or properties. The properties have to be connected. The main purpose is that we are to receive sewage and distribute water from the households. In a lot of areas, it also includes the unjust industrial sites, but it doesn't have to be included. There's always a political point in building industrial sites as it contributes to the municipality's economy. So the politicians can say we have to connect the industrial sites as well. But if you look at the law, you're not bound to connect the industrial sites. And you can also say that we are not allowed to connect all the sewage types either. So we try to define like a household sewage water. That's our main purpose. And if an industrial site, for instance, produces some kind of chemical and put the chemical in the wastewater, we can tell the industrial site that they have to remove these kind of chemicals before they go down to the wastewater treatment plants. Because if they do put all the chemicals in the sewage, we get it into the sludge, or it could even take out all the biological treatment in the wastewater treatment plants. So the system isn't built up in that way that we can take everything into the wastewater treatment plants. We can limit what kind of water comes into the wastewater treatment plant. We are also not bound to take care of all water that comes to the wastewater treatment plant. The sewage systems in Sweden is mainly built for like a 10-year occurring precipitation situation. So if we see that, could you unmute the sound? Thank you. For instance, we're not bound to take care of a sky burst situation. So if a precipitation occur less often than each 10 year, we're not bound to take care of that water. That is to be taken care of other systems or functions in that local area. When we speak about water, we often use this picture that kind of illustrates the water cycle within a city and the resource chain that we are connected to when it comes to, for instance, the biogas, the heat extraction, and the nutrients or organic matter. And we also see a growing aspect on water reuse in our society. And this meeting is mainly about the wastewater treatment directive, but we do see that there are a lot of directives that affects our distribution chain and even affects how we look at the wastewater treatment directive. As for instance, we have the Water Framework Directive, which is like very important when it comes to the permits that we put on our wastewater treatment plants, because everything that, as my Finnish colleague said, that we'll have to look at the status of the recipient when we give a permit to a wastewater treatment plant. And we also see that the sludge directive, for instance, that it's also affecting what we get into the wastewater. So it's really, really important to see all of these directives, not just look at one directive. So yeah, it's just an advice that we can bring out from the Swedish water sector. Our national process is strongly driven from the EU. We have the EU directives that go down into some kind of national regulation, and then we have permits on each wastewater treatment plant. We do actually see that 80% of all Swedish legislation within our area comes directly from the EU. So it's quite a huge amount, actually. When it comes to our permits, as I said earlier, they're mainly focused on the status of the water body. That's really, really essential. And since there's a judging within the Water Framework Directive called the EUSBSR case, and it's been putting a real strong focus in this Swedish discussion of the pollutant load. And it even goes down to the stormwater pollutant load, since the stormwater brings out also nutrients and some kind of chemicals that is distributed in our society. So we have had cases in Sweden where we even can't build housing because it might change the status in a water body. So it's really important for us to follow all these cycles and build different kind of treatment devices. It can be, of course, a wastewater treatment plant, but it could also be like a stormwater retention pond or something to just catch up all pollutants in stormwater as well. And we shall also not forget the CSOs, the combined sewage overflows. In some Swedish cities, we have some 50% combined systems, and I think it might be pretty common if we go in the southern part of Europe as well, that we have more combined systems, even though we try to build as much separated systems as we can in Sweden today. The Swedish water cycle is supervised either by a local authority or a county board, and it depends on the society's how large the society is. If the wastewater treatment plant is dimensioned for a certain amount of people, it goes to a local authority, but if it's greater than a certain amount, it goes to the county board because the impact is so big. So you have different levels on who is performing we can say who is performing the responsibility on the municipalities' treatment efficiency. When it comes to administration, it's always driven by a municipality in Sweden, and we are non-profit organizations. So we can't. My Finnish colleague told me wrote that 10 to 15% is an allowed amount to have as a surplus every year. In Sweden, we can't do that. We have to make a zero profit budget, more or less. It's always driven within a municipality, but we can sell or buy treatment to or from other municipalities. So municipalities can cooperate to have a more efficient treatment in other municipalities or take care of someone else's sewage within their own treatment plant. Some organizations have also built multi-municipal organizations that they build a major treatment plant, and it serves more municipalities, but they all have some part of have a common board to run the organizations, so they can have an influence in everything. And that's a different administration if you compare to the one where you sell or buy, because you can't really affect how the owner of the treatment plant runs the treatment plant. But when you have a multi-municipal organization, you have an influence on the treatment plant. You can also form multi-utilities with other kind of aspects, as in solid waste, for instance, or heating or electricity and such. And that's also a common administration for Swedish municipalities. And if I look at all these Swedish municipalities, we have this amount of different kind of administration, and we can see that the most common form is a municipal administration, and the less common is a municipal company that only handles the water services. But it's more common that you go into some kind of joint administration or a joint company, or even a multi-utility. And we see that when you collaborate is often a much better way to handle services, because it's a complex mission with a wide broad of aspects, and the complexity is growing. So we try to encourage all our municipalities to have some kind of joint venture within the companies, to collaborate when it comes to, like, could be some kind of service that they could collaborate about, or just exchange experience with other municipalities. Because our business our core is pretty challenged right now by different kind of perspectives. The most in front of us is our climate adaptation, and also our climate impact, that we do also We have to adapt our systems to a different kind of precipitation. We're going to have, in Sweden, we're going to have less precipitation during summer, but we're going to have a much different precipitation situations during winter, that we might not get snow in the same way as we usually do, which is going to affect the amount of water that comes into our wastewater treatment plants. And of course, also the pipe networks that are not dimensioned to take care of the skybursts, which is going to be more often occurring in Sweden. We'd also see that the security question has been quite larger in the last years. Firstly, it was more of a digital security, which is a contrast to the digitalization, but because that's also a huge trend in Sweden that we want to digitalize a lot of stuff. And we want to connect all our devices to different kind of IoT systems, but we'd also have the security aspect that we have to take care of, that there are safe solutions. And of course, we have also a big discussion in Sweden right now occurring to security for national threat and such because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We'd also see that we get a much more stronger regulation in Sweden, and the Wastewater Treatment Directive is one of those regulations that is going to affect us in great extent, that we have to remove much more pollutants than we do today. We have a really good situation right now where we have efficient wastewater treatment plants, but we do have to go into, for example, microplastics or pharmaceuticals in our wastewater systems, treatment systems, and we don't have that kind of treatment facilities today, at least not in a great extent, and we have to rebuild a lot of systems. We also have a great investment needs, as in the Finland case, a lot of our systems is fairly old. The oldest systems are from the 1930s or older, even though we have pipe networks which is from the 1850s and still in use. And we see that a lot of this, the majority of the Swedish systems was built during the 1950s to the 1970s, and we had national funding to build all these systems, which has resulted in we have fairly low tariffs in Sweden. The Swedish households doesn't really look at the water tax as a big cost for their households, but we see that we need to renew our systems in a much greater rate that we are used to, and that's going to be drive up the costs for the municipalities, and we need to take this out on our tariffs. So the water taxes in Sweden is going up, and they're going to go up for quite a while now, even in the future. We recently published a report that says that we're going to have to put in 2.7 billion euros a year into the Swedish water system. So it's going to be a huge cost for the municipalities. If I look at my conclusions, I see that the EU has a large effect on the Swedish legislations, and we have to we work pretty close to the EU right now, that we have people in Brussels that can see what's happening within the EU, and that we can affect the legislation in a much greater extent than we did like some 10 years back. We'd also see that water is going to cost much more money in the future than it does today, and we see that tariffs is going up. And I think that since the Weser case came, I think that we need to have a much greater focus on the stormwater in Sweden. I think it goes for entire Europe as well, that stormwater might not have the same pollutant rate as we do in CSOs, but it's more occurring, which means that we see that a lot of nutrients come to the Swedish recipients from the stormwater, and we're going to put in a lot of money into stormwater treatment facilities in the upcoming years, and we'd also have to adopt them to the climate effects, the climate change effects. And when we put out our strong message to the Swedish municipalities, we try to tell them that they need to cooperate more, because the mission is going to be much more complex in the future. And as I showed on an earlier picture, the most common situation in Sweden is that we have municipality administration, which might not be so efficient, because if you look at least the smaller municipalities in Sweden, which can be as small as like 2,500 people, we see that they don't have the competence to run an organization that can tackle all these different aspects. They need to cooperate or collaborate in much greater extent, because the task is going to be too big for those smaller organizations. We think that you at least need to be some 30 or 40,000 people within a municipality to take care of the mission on your own. And a lot of Swedish municipalities are smaller than that. So it's going to be a huge difference for the Swedish municipalities when they try to adopt or implement the wastewater treatment directive. So it's going to be interesting to see how it affects the Swedish municipalities. And that's all from me. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. If anybody has questions to Eric, they're welcome now, or if Finnish or Polish representatives would like to comment on Eric's speech.
Eric, thank you for presentation. It's very interesting about the Swedish experience in some control of authorities. Thank you.
Przemysław, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the interesting presentation. I would like just to underline that it seems that we have identified the same problems or the same issues that we should be focused on. It's the cooperation between communities, between agglomerations, stormwaters that are very an important, crucial issue now in Poland, because we see that our infrastructure is not prepared for stormwaters from the cities, from heavy rainfalls. And the third issue is price for water, and this is what I would love to underline even twice. That if we, and this is I think it might be an important message to our colleagues from Ukraine when they create their plans for investment. It's always important to have on mind what the purpose of investment is and what the financial result for the community and for its citizens might be. Because the more you invest, whatever you take the money from, probably the higher price for water will be. And for sewage collection, sometimes it's better not to have the newest, the most tricky or the most sophisticated technologies invested. Sometimes it's better to have something not so modern but cheaper. And the final message is the investment is not for itself, is not for spending money. We spend money to invest, but we invest to meet the requirements and to meet the standards. And it's something that our communities in Poland do not, I think they do not understand. Their point of view is we have money, we have to spend it. If we can take money from European funds, it's even better, we can spend more. And then we have a result as in one of our agglomeration, when they have invested a lot, they have a new sewage collection system and some other nice things they have constructed, but the price of a cubic meter for wastewater collected from households is 12 euros. I don't know how it's for Finland or Sweden, but for Poland is an extreme amount of money, and as the result, people do not want to be connected to the system, or they have their access to fresh water limited because the water is too expensive. And this is the other side of the same coin, the spending and the investments. So having money does not mean that we have to spend all of it, because we have to remember what the result may be for our citizens. Thank you.
12 euros per cubic meter is a huge amount in Swedish, in a Swedish context. We are more down to like 1 or 2 euros per cubic meter.
And it's a normal price for Poland as well, 1 euro, 2 euros. But the one example, those 12 euros, it's more than 50 zlotys per cubic meter only for sewage. Then there is another price for water. It's something incredible, but it happened.
Then we have a question from Tia Pedusar. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Tia Pedusar, and I work for Stockholm Environment Institute, Tallinn Center. So I come from Estonia. Erik, thank you for your interesting presentation. In Estonia, we have the same problem that the small municipalities, they don't have enough capacity. I have very concrete question to you. How do you just encourage smaller municipalities to cooperate in Sweden? What are these so-called candies for them to cooperate?
We are trying to give them good examples of how what it can look like when you're trying to collaborate. So when we do statistical reports every year, so we always try to lift up the benefits of collaborating, and it can look in different ways. Some have a common administration where they have an integrated political system, or that's politicians within a unified administration board. And in some cases, it might be a company where they have an ownership in that company. So we don't say that one system is bad or one system is good, but we say that it's all organizations benefit from the collaboration. And it could be in small things, and it can be in large things. And we try to just lift up these good examples and show them to the smaller administrations.
Thank you.
Are there more questions, or we should have a break now? We are a bit late in the schedule, so maybe we will start 11:35 and then continue. We will have a presentation from the Turku municipality wastewater treatment, and then we will have time a bit more for discussions, and then we have lunch break. So maybe now short 10-minute break and continue after that. Thank you. Now it's 11:35, so maybe we can continue. Jarkko and Jouko from Turku, ready to start? Or welcome and go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Elsie, and good afternoon, everyone. From Turku, Finland, we are Jouko Tuomi and Jarkko Laanti from Turku wastewater treatment plant Kakolanmäki, and we will share you some practices from our wastewater treatment plant, which is also municipality owned, as Ari Kangas earlier presented. Jarkko will first tell you some practices, and then I will continue with the performance things.
Hello. So my name is Jarkko Laanti. I work here as a quality and environmental manager, and this is Mr. Jouko Tuomi. He works here as a production engineer. So first, Turku, we are committed to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals. And here is also a link. We have made a short video about the water expertise in Turku region. It can be viewed in YouTube from this link. First, few words about our company in general. we are a wholesale company owned by 14 municipalities in Turku region, southwestern part in Finland. Ownership percentages are shown in this map. Our mission is to ensure efficient and high quality wastewater treatment for the 300,000 inhabitants in the region and also clean the industrial wastewaters. This is the same area in the map of 14 municipalities, and there's the sewage network shown in the map. Sewage network is owned and operated by the municipalities. Our company just runs the wholesale wastewater treatment plant. So when we work here with the municipalities, there's got to be active stakeholder cooperation, for example, to reduce stormwater discharges into sewers and to be prepared for exceptional situations, and also, of course, industrial wastewaters. There's altogether over 2,000 kilometers sewage network and 500 pumping stations in our operating area. Here is an aerial view of the Kakola Hill. The picture shows the very central location of the treatment plant. All operational activities take place underground inside the hill. The discharge point for treated wastewater is in the harbor basin, about 1 kilometer away. The process itself is very traditional activated sludge process. First, the substances that does not belong to the wastewater is removed in the pre-treatment phase, followed by the heart of cleaning, the activated sludge process. And finally, the wastewater is treated with sand filters and UV sanitation. Our operating model, in accordance with the strategy of our owners, our own personnel focuses only to the core function, which is the wastewater treatment. That's why we have quite few own employees, only 15 total. The main points in the operation are, among other things, a cost-effective and good cleaning result as possible. Then optimization of resources and chemicals, for example, risk management and preparedness for exceptional situations. And risk management also developed as continuous process all the time. And as I said, the active cooperation with the owner municipalities and other stakeholders. And finally, well-being of our employees. Support functions are purchased from external service providers. The largest are sludge treatment, maintenance services, and laboratory services. Then I give this to Jouko.
Okay, thank you, Jarkko. Okay, I will continue with the performance things. Okay, so here is few key things that we try to reach for getting better future for all. So our operation is based on excellent know-how and optimized operating models. As Jarkko said earlier, we have a cooperation with the local energy company and a biogas station. We have quite a lot of our own annual development work, and we think that the whole process is a great example of the functionality of a circular economy. Here is some information about the sludge treatment and the heat pump station, which are both outsourced things. So a company called Gasum owns and operates the biogas station. We are located, as Jarkko said, in the center of Turku city. That's why we cannot have our own digestion plant. So we have bought it outsourced from the Gasum. And we transport with a biogas truck 40,000 tons of sludge to the biogas station from our Kakolanmäki wastewater treatment plant. And on the digestion plant, they have the mesophilic process. And from the biogas which they produce, they liquefy it to get the liquefied biogas for the transportation purposes. They also have an evapostripping unit for the reject water treatment. So that's why the wastewater treatment plant is so lightly loaded, because we don't get the nitrogen or phosphorus back from the reject water treatment. And they also can get from this evapostripping process high quality liquid nitrogen product, which they can sell for the industrial use. And this product actually has an end of waste status. And from the solid matter, the nutrients can be circulated back for the landscaping and agriculture purposes. In Finland, most of the nutrients are circulated back for the landscaping and greenery purposes, not so much anymore for the agriculture. And the energy company, which is operating in our plant also, is producing district heating and district cooling from the wastewater with 2 heat pump units. So they can use the excess heat, which is otherwise going straight to the sea. They can take it through the heat pumps and use it for the district heating and cooling. And with this unit, we can get 10% of district heating and almost all district cooling in the Turku region. So it's very green energy. And later on, I will tell you some more about the energy balance and also about the climate impact of the plant. But this slide contains some of the key things that we have done on the past years, and also some practices that we would like to share for you. So Kakolanmäki plant is quite new, 15 years old, but still we have done quite a lot of development work. We development annually the plant with a couple of million. And the latest things that we have done is the UV facility, which Jarkko also mentioned. And it has been commissioned in 2023. So like in the past few months, we have taken it into use. We have also done quite a lot of work for the solutions for combating the hydrogen sulfide in the sewage network, because the longest distance from our pumping station to our plant is like 70 kilometers. So the water is totally anaerobic on the stage, and that's why there is production of hydrogen sulfide, but we have done quite a lot for combating against it. We have also taken to use quite recently ozonation for the exhaust air to reduce the odor which goes out from the plant. And the plant is quite highly automized, and we have a comprehensive online measurement system and the optimized autopilot for the process control. We don't have like artificial intelligence for the controlling the process. We only get a lot of information, and the automation reacts for the information. But the most important thing in our process, so the basis of an effective purification, is the highly optimized active sludge process. So it's a very traditional process, and we have taken into account proactively the seasonal and weather changes, which are quite remarkable in Finland and in other Nordic countries. There's quite a lot of changes in the temperature about the incoming water in compare with the summer and winter times. It can be like over 15 degrees of the incoming water temperature. But however, we still have a nitrification rate over 99% on the annual average. So almost all of the incoming nitrogen will be converted. So it tells about the effectiveness of the biological state. And we have optimized the space and time for the total nitrogen removal. So we have oxygenated and oxygen-free volume is adjustable. So we can change the process parameters and process volumes in the aeration part depend on the ammonia concentration or nitrate concentration. And one thing that I already mentioned is that the reject waters from digestion are treated in the biogas plant, so a large nitrogen load is not created. And one important thing also in our plant is the separate bypass water treatment, which is active flow unit, which enables the protection of the biological process in situation of the industrial discharge or in the stage of flow fluctuations. As discussed earlier on the seminar, we also have quite a lot of variations when it starts to rain or the snow melts. The volume can be like 5 times higher on the rainy seasons than on the dry seasons. But the active flow process is very handy for this kind of purposes, so we don't have to like put too much load on the biological stage. And on the end of our process, we have a tertiary treatment, which is slow sand filtration, which is a very robust method, and I think it's very effective for the removing of solids and nutrients. It's very easy to use. We haven't changed the sand for 15 years, so it has been working very well. We only wash it backwards each day. And about the harmful substances, at the moment we don't have any specific system. Of course, the biological stage will convert some of the hazardous substances and bind the hazardous substances. But however, we are monitoring many of the substances every year. And actually, we are part of the project. And in 2025, ozonation and granulated activated carbon filtration will probably be tested with pilot equipment for reduction of the hazardous substances. Here is the results of our purification. So on the right, you can see our environmental permit, which consists of concentration and also cleaning efficiency on percentages. And as you can see, most of the results have been like getting better. since like on the 5-year time period, and the process is very stable in the years. Only the like inflow can be changing quite a lot. As you can see in 2018 and 19, there's like almost 10 million cubic meters difference. And here is the energy balance that I already mentioned about. The total energy consumption about the wastewater treatment plant and also the network is around 22,000 megawatts per hour per year. But however, we have a production with which overpowers quite a lot of the consumption, and most of the production comes from the heat pump station, about the heat in production. So total energy production is almost 10 times higher than the consumption. Of course, most of the production is the heat, and we consume the electricity, but still it's very like a good balance between the consumption and the production. And here is the climate impact of our process. On the bars on the right, you can see that the wastewater treatment plant operations produce like 20,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year, and it has been decreased now for the only 10,000 tons. And most of the reason that it has been decreased is that we buy 0% of like electricity, so it's climate neutral, the electricity that we buy. Also, we try to reduce the climate impact of chemicals that we are using. But because of the sludge treatment at Gasum's biogas plant and the waste heat utilization, we can like avoid the using of fossil energy, and that's why we can calculate that our total climate impact of the whole wastewater treatment plant as entirety is negative, like 42,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. So the production of energy is positive and the climate impact is negative. Okay, that was our final slide. Thank you for the interested. And if you have any questions, we are happy to ask. In this, we are happy to answer in the seminar or later on the email also.
Thank you. It was really interesting.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience now? Or from Poland, Sweden, representatives? If not,
No, thank you.
I would like to also ask. Go ahead, Przemysław.
Sorry, hi. I have a small question about your phosphorus treatment. You mentioned that you reach phosphorus results for maybe 0 in effluent. You use only biological treatment or some chemical dosing?
Yes, thank you for your question. Yeah, actually we reached 0.1 or 0.2 on the outgoing phosphorus milligrams per liter, and we actually are using. It's quite typical in Finland to use ferrous sulfate, so iron 2 sulfate as a precipitation of phosphorus. So we are using that. It's like 100 grams per cubic meter is the dosage for the process, but at summertime we also have quite active biological phosphorus removal also. because the nitrogen amount is so low.
Okay, thank you. And one small question about the slide that you mentioned plant has developed. You mentioned that you make some steps for combating this hydrogen H2S in search network about autopilot for process control. So as I understand, you already made it, yes?
Yes, actually we have tested quite a lot of the H2S methods to decrease the amount of H2S on the sewage network. And at the moment we are actively using oxygen generator to produce pure oxygen to the network, which is of course preventing the H2S to like
Created.
to be created. Yes, and we also have an
Step aeration.
yes, we have step aeration, which we are using to aerate the H2S, and on the outgoing air we have the active carbon filters to reduce the odor and the like other harmful things about the H2S.
And we have also tested several chemicals. We have also possibility to add chemicals, but right now we don't need any chemicals. These are enough.
Yes.
Thank you. It's cool technology. I work in this field, and this is very interesting decision. And what about autopilot for process control? Can you say some words?
For the did you mean about the process control in our plant, or did you mean the pilot plant that we are going to?
In the slide you mentioned autopilot for process control. As I understood, you use some devices and control system for autopilot the process of treatment.
Yes, we actually have quite a lot of can get quite a lot of information about our process. We have like online analyzers on our process. We have also online measurements, and we take samples from the water process 3 times a week in different parts of our process. So we get quite online information about all the changes we made on our process. So it's very like quick to get the information and make the changes that we are willing to do.
Okay, so it's better to say that it's online control and online action of the process, yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Maybe I can share some information. I work with, maybe you've heard this company Gidromantis. They make a program GPS-X, and they develop, for now, they develop some instrument to make some models, some prognosis to what we will treat during some time. And now, as I know, they piloting this system in Canada. Maybe it will be helpful for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, we have also used the GBSX, which is Hydromantis project, for the process simulating system. So we have actually used it already to get the information about our process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Go ahead if anybody wants to ask. If not, then I would like to ask about the sludge. Because in Finland we have the situation that some food companies are reluctant to get to use sludge for wastewater treatment and agriculture. Do you see that in the future there might be steps forward that we could use the sludge in agriculture again in bigger amounts, or how to get there, or what's your experience with that?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a very good question, because we visited like a month ago in Sweden, and I heard that they are using quite actively the sludge for the agriculture, and of course they are measuring it quite a lot, and we are also measuring our sludge quite a lot. So it's a really important question, and really I think it's one of the good purposes to use the nutrients when you can get the circulation of nutrients, because at least the phosphorus is there is not so lot of like virgin phosphorus anymore. So it's really important to use, and I think it's more like a political situation in Finland at the moment. So it's not forbidden to use. Of course, it's possible to use, but hopefully it will be more use in the future. Do you have your?
So you see no problems with using it? It's just a more like idea that there might be.
Our opinion is that it's in people's mind. We have been in few research projects, and those have not discovered any risks related to harmful substances in the sludge.
Yes.
There's a question from Eric.
I can just comment on the Swedish perspective. We've been working for quite a while now with trying to put the sludge on for agriculture use, and we have some farmers are really keen on getting the sludge, but some farmers are really not into getting the sludge into their agricultural land use. So and especially in the northern part of Sweden, it's really difficult to get the sludge out on the agricultural fields, because we don't do any agriculture in the northern part of Sweden because it's too cold. So it's mostly in the middle part of Sweden and downwards south. There's always been a discussion in Sweden about how to handle the sludge in the future. And right now there are some, actually a new formed company in the city of Umeå where they want to incinerate the sludge and withdraw the nutrients from the ashes from the incinerator. But I don't think it's like one size fits all. It's like in some parts of Sweden you have to go for one solution, and in another part of Sweden another solution. So it's going to be a huge task, and really interesting to see where the sludge is going to end up in the future. But we want to make sure that the nutrients and also the I don't know what's called in English, but it's like a more cultivating substance within the sludge that's like it's quite porous, and it benefits the agricultural the crops that grow. So it's better to get the sludge out in the field than to get the incinerated ashes and the nutrients, because it's a more pure version, but you lack some substances that is in the sludge. So it's a huge discussion, and it's a lot of different interest within the discussion. So it's going to be interesting to see where it ends up.
Indeed. Anybody else have any questions? There's a comment from Paula. There is also practical problem to use sludge or manure. Transporting it to the fields is not economically viable. Yeah, that's really true. Or at least there are no solutions right now that are economically good. That's right. If there are no more questions, then we can go for the lunch hour, and we will continue at 15 past 1 o'clock ET. So those in Poland and other CET countries, it's 15 past 12, I think. So see you in 1 hour, 10 minutes more or less.